Good evening. I'm Alexandra Lewis.
I'm Kyle Clark. There is a voter fraud investigation on in Mesa County right now. Dozens of voters' ballots were cast without their knowledge. Democratic Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold says those ballots never made it to the voters' homes. Someone took them, filled them out, signed them, and returned them in the mail. That's a crime. 3 of them made it past signature verification and were counted. There's no way to fish them out of the system because ballots are separated from their signature envelopes before counting. The fraud fell apart when voters who were notified of signature issues with their ballot said they hadn't voted.
Our processes identified this, and where there were ballots that, a certain number of ballots that got through, we have Mesa counties taking immediate actions to remediate that, and county clerks across the state are going through and dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that their processes, their security processes, are as hardened as possible to make sure that things like this do not happen.
Secretary of State says the affected ballots were sent to homes that were physically near each other. So far, no one's been arrested. Secretary of State's office says all the voters impacted will still be allowed to cast a ballot, including 3 people whose fraudulently cast ballots were already counted. So for years, Republicans in Colorado and elsewhere have stoked claims about mass voter fraud without evidence. There are actually very few confirmed instances.
9 News reporter Rachel Krause looked at past cases in Colorado to understand what's happening now.
The Weld County clerk says while cases of voter fraud do happen, they're rare and usually easily spotted.
In Colorado, historically, we have not seen a whole lot of voter fraud. We've always had attempts, but it's never been to a huge extent of amount that will qualify for anything to disrupt an election or the outcome.
Republican Carly Koppus is the Weld County clerk and recorder. She says that's what makes the situation in Mesa County so strange.
It definitely is something that is unusual. This is my 20th year in elections, and we've never seen anything like that happen in Colorado before.
A number of those ballots were caught during the signature process.
It is pretty easy for our trained election judges to be able to identify and say, hey, wait a second, these are not matching. It's very hard for somebody to mimic your signature.
Data from the Conservative Heritage Foundation shows in the past 10 years, 14 people in Colorado have been convicted of voter fraud. Barry Morphew was convicted after using his dead wife's ballot to vote for Donald Trump in 2020. And former GOP Chair Steve Curtis was convicted of voter fraud in Weld County in 2017.
We had got all the evidence that we needed, and our DA's office did a fantastic job of representing that in court.
While some voter fraud cases are unintentional, like a spouse accidentally signing both ballots, Koppus says others are trying to fool the system, but it's not happening often. On average, she says they investigate about 200 to 300 people out of 3 to 4 million voters.
So the percentage is really, really small.
Koppus says if you have questions or concerns about election security and safety, contact your county clerk. They're happy to answer any questions so you feel comfortable casting your ballot. In Weld County, Rachel Krause, 9 News.
It was a warm one today. Tomorrow will be cooler, and next week we're expecting an even bigger temperature drop. Meteorologist Lauren Robinson with the Weather Impact team is here with more. Hey, Lauren.
Hey, and that's exactly right. Tomorrow, temperatures will drop down a little bit, then they rise back up for the weekend and take a big drop toward the beginning of next week. In the meantime, 47 degrees right now at DIA. Those winds have calmed down. They were very gusty this afternoon, leading to fire concerns, but now coming in from the south-southeast at just 6 miles per hour, and winds have calmed across most of the Front Range and Eastern Plains. Buckeye still a little breezy up there with gusts reported at 23 miles per hour. Outside of that, we're going to see a pretty clear evening. Cooler weather is going to settle across the Front Range and Eastern Plains, and that's going to lead to a lot of frost overnight tonight. Most of the Front Range and Eastern Plains will be under a frost advisory from midnight tonight until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Temperatures near freezing, not including Denver, with a low near 38 degrees expected. And then off to the northwest there, we could see a freeze warning with those lows dropping to around 26 degrees. So as you're planning out your day tomorrow, by the time you're waking up, we're going to be barely rebounding from those overnight lows in the upper 30s. By noon, we're warming up into the 50s, and we're going to see highs in the middle 60s by tomorrow afternoon. Much cooler than what we'd been seeing the last few days, but I'll have details on the warm-up this weekend after the break.
A scandal involving a disgraced CBI analyst has led to a plea deal in a decades-old cold case murder out of Douglas County. Michael Jefferson was arrested in 2021 for shooting and killing a man named Roger Dean in 1985. Missy Woods was the CBI analyst who linked the evidence to Jefferson. Investigators have discovered abnormalities with Woods' work, impacting more than 800 cases. Jefferson's attorney says His client's case is one of those that she touched. He told 9 News the investigation into Woods was a major factor in prosecutors offering a plea now that she has credibility issues as a witness. Jefferson's sentencing hearing was pushed back to January. He faces up to 32 years.
The former owners of a funeral home in southern Colorado accused of improperly storing nearly 200 bodies have pleaded guilty to federal charges. These are connected to the nearly $900,000 in pandemic relief funding they misspent. John and Carrie Halford ran the Return to Nature funeral home in Penrose. Today, they each pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. That carries a minimum sentence of 6.5 years in prison. Prosecutors are asking for 15. The deal still has to be approved by the judge. Christina Page's son was among the bodies mistreated at Return to Nature.
That our justice system is set up in a way that the bodies are completely forgotten and the victims aren't acknowledged, and that this is what we get in the form of a wire fraud charge is a real sad state of affairs for our justice system as a whole.
The Halfords still face more than 200 state charges. They'll be sentenced for the wire fraud at a later date.
Broncos wide receiver Josh Reynolds was hurt in a shooting last week. This is an incident that we talked about here before we knew that he was the one involved. Documents obtained by our 9 News Investigates team say Reynolds and friends were followed as they left Shotgun Willie's strip club in Glendale last Friday. Investigators say the shooters ambushed them along I-25 near Colorado. Reynolds was injured in the arm and the head. Broncos describe his injuries as minor. His 2 friends were also hurt. They're all expected to be okay. Denver police have arrested 2 men for the shooting. Luis Mendoza and Burr Charlesworth are being held on suspicion of attempted murder.